Hello, welcome to my demo video for assignment 1 for the block-in stage of assignment 1. I've decided to do a grapple gun, my own design, and I've first set up my image planes before I started, and I like to do this in a simple way where I cut them up. After I do the design, I cut them up and I put them in a perfectly square-shaped canvas in Photoshop, and I make sure that they're aligned by using the rulers here. So I'll make sure that they flip. The front is perfectly aligned with the side, and so is the back. And they're also perfectly centered, just makes everything easier. And I also did a top. Sometimes I'll do a bottom as well. You'll see in hard surface modeling 2 when I do a car. I also did a bottom. I didn't feel that I needed to go that far for this one because it's quite a bit simpler. So I just did these 4 views. Then when I bring them over into Maya, I make one perfectly square sized plane, and I'll copy it 4 times, and I'll put 4 different materials on them so I can bring in my 4 images as 4 different textures, put them on 4 different layers, and then that gives me the freedom to not have them all on at the same time. I can just turn them off and on when I want them. And if you bring them in the alternative way through the camera as image planes, then you're limited to just having 3 of them because you can't have 2 on one axis. So that's why I prefer to do things this way. And if you don't have a design that you've drawn, you can look online to find blueprints of real gun or any other accessory that you'd like to model for this assignment. So if you're doing a gun, you can probably go to, you can type in the name of the model and the word blueprint, or you can go to the manufacturer's website. Sometimes they'll have different views as well. So it'll probably be good to choose something that is well known enough, a hard surface thing that has a model name, and then you can use that method to try to find different angles, because it will really help you understand the form a lot better if you have photographs from a lot of different angles. So the first thing I do is just start box modeling from a cube and try to capture the basic shape. I tend to start by using the Extrude tool and angling the geometry correctly to match my design on the image planes. As I work through this process of blocking in, I'm also keeping in mind that I'm going to be using a smooth preview and creasing workflow in a little bit so that I can work with the minimal amount of vertices yet still get some of the curving shapes I want. This just makes it possible that I can move the geometry around more efficiently. So I'm not doing that just yet, but I'm not putting in as much geometry as I would if I'm not planning to use smooth preview. I guess I put in about half as much as I would if I wasn't going to be using smooth. So I'm sure you guys have probably already figured it out that it can save you a lot of time to use primitive geometry, particularly cylinders and spheres sometimes when you have a form in your design or in whatever it is that you're modeling that really resembles a cylinder or could be made easily from a cylinder or some other primitive. So you'll see me doing that quite a lot with this design. I'm going to insert an edge loop now with edge flow. That means that the edge I insert will take on the same rounded shape as the rest of this cylindrical form. I'm going in through the hotbox to access this tool, and I need to turn on edge flow in the options box right here. I often also use the extrude tool to extrude on the surface of a form so that I can then inset the faces or pull them out. This can also be used as a way to define areas of negative space. So I'm just going to fit this piece a little bit more tightly inside because it's meant to be like an inner piece that I'm going to extrude this other piece in front of. And the reason that I'm working from the cylindrical form is because that's kind of the priority. Like keeping that form intact is my priority. So I would want to attach like the correct amount of edges to it, because it's easy for that part of a model to look bad if it has a bunch of like triangles or something attached to it, especially if it's two curving forms like intersecting and coming together. It works much better if they have the same amount of edges, same amount of faces that are connecting. So it just seems to work best to take these more complicated round forms and use them as the priority and extrude the geometry that you're going to use that's going to be connected to them. Just extrude that right out from them, and then connect that geometry to your other geometry, to the rest of your base. It's really important that the geometry all lines up as cleanly as possible so that it's really simple to work with. So you need to make sure you merge verts that don't need to be separate, and use the scale tool to scale lines or edges of vertices, scale them into flat lines wherever necessary. So when you select two faces, you can use the multi-cut tool as in slice face mode like that, and you won't cut any other faces. So it's really got many uses. Of course, you can just use its regular function to cut in important features and divide between components. You can see now I've hit 3 on the keyboard, so I'm going into the smooth preview mode. I'm making a crease set, and now I'm selecting the edges that I want to add to that crease set. It's better to do this through the crease editor than just using the regular crease tool function, because this way you have them all together in a set and you can select them all easily and bevel them all at the same time if you want. And you can also delete creases easier this way. They tend to get stuck on the model, and there's no way to get rid of them when you when you just crease without doing it through the Crease Set editor. And if they do get stuck, if you can't delete them, if you can't, or you can't hit remove creases you don't want creased through the Crease Set editor, all you have to do is make another crease set, add them to that crease set, and then press remove, and you will be able to remove them. You can see how I'm using smooth mode to define this curve a bit better. If you can't get the shape that you want in smooth mode, it probably means that you don't have enough edges creased, so crease more edges around that shape, or you might also have to add in more geometry there. When you're working in smooth mode, it's kind of like working with Bezier curves. By stacking vertices close together, you can control how tight your curves are. I'm going to stop here for today, and we'll start next time with the optimization of the mesh that takes place after you switch from just using the smooth preview to actually committing to smoothing the model.